Welcome to the C-Suite at the Open. I'm Burke Suman, Head of Company Services based here in Calgary. Joining us today is Glenn Mullan, President and CEO of Golden Valley Mines, ticker GZZ on the TSX Venture. Glenn, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure. Let's get right into it. Golden Valley has a unique structure with various related entities. Can you begin by telling us about how you're structured differently than, say, a standard mining company?
Sure. So it's deliberate by design, born from negative experiences in the past. And so we know what failure looks like. So we tried to come up with a recipe that would lead with more probability towards success. So we began with expenses and costs and tried to find a model where we could minimize the exposure to Golden Valley shareholders. And the way we did that is by spinning out our best assets and listing them separately also on the TSXV. And so we formed three satellites or subsidiaries that were all listed in 2011, all spun out of Golden Valley using its primary assets. So one was a royalty in Malartic, Quebec, and that's become a royalties company that's done quite well, Abitibi Royalties. And the other two are prospect generators. One of them works in Quebec and Ontario called Val-d'Or Mining Corp. And the third one does the same thing, prospect generation, but in Australia, Western Australia. And so that gives Golden Valley shareholders the exposure to prospect generation and opportunities, exploration, what the Fraser Institute ranks as some of the best domains in the world, Quebec, Ontario, Western Australia, and more particularly into the royalty space through our own royalties satellite. So that was how we tried to construct it, at the same time minimizing expenses on the Golden Valley side. So Golden Valley doesn't actually raise money and deploy funds on its own properties. The satellites do, the subsidiaries do. And so that was how we changed the business model from what's quite conventional in the industry to something that's a little bit more unique.
Right, definitely a unique structure in the industry. What I also noticed was unique about you was your insider and your institutional ownership, and that you also receive a dividend from one of these entities. Can you comment on your ownership and the importance of the dividend you receive?
Yeah, and I'm proud of that because, for an IPO or for a new company, you would expect insiders to have a good position. That's not uncommon. In fact, it's typical, but we're 20 years old, and the largest group of shareholders are the board of directors. And in fact, the board has increased its ownership for each of the last 5 years. So I would like to think that insiders are well informed, and so is the general market, but the insiders must feel that they see something of value to keep increasing their ownership. And so the board as a whole owns 30% of Golden Valley. And then some of our other shareholders are also noteworthy in that they're not typical in most junior mining companies. So we have the Caisse de Dépôt, the largest pension fund in Canada with over 330 billion under their management. They're a significant 5% shareholder of Golden Valley, and a couple of other Quebec government institutions, SIDEX and FTQ. Collectively, those three funds own 10% of Golden Valley. So that's not typically common in most junior mining companies. So that's deliberately different by design. And in terms of the dividend, that began about a year ago. So the royalties company has, done quite well over the past 5 years. It's receiving cash flow from dividends and various other revenue sources that it's developed in its own right, all centered on a property in Malartic, Quebec, just outside of Val-d'Or. Basically the royalties on the east side of the Canadian Malartic gold mine, which is the largest gold mine in North America right now. And so those dividends have allowed Golden Valley, being the largest shareholder, owning 45% of the royalties company, that provides very close to $700,000 a year directly to Golden Valley. So that's another way to avoid dilution. We don't have to raise funds for G&A or salaries, of which there aren't very many. And pretty much all of the expenses are covered off by the dividend. So there isn't any foreseeable dilution coming, and that was something that we tried to design as well.
Very strong message to investors, and I really like that support that you get from the institutional side and the large component of insider ownership. Let's switch gears a little bit. within your portfolio, what asset excites you the most and why?
Well, being a prospector at heart, they all excite me. They all could be mines, and that's why we staked them or acquired them. But the one that is far and away the most substantive to Golden Valley and therefore Golden Valley shareholders would be the equity position that we own in our own satellite called Abitibi Royalties, RZZ, on the venture. And that's because it owns the royalties on the east side of Canadian Malartic. That mine has gone through spectacular growth over the past decade. It's the most profitable gold mine in Canada. It has the largest throughput of any gold mine in Canada. They actually mill over 55,000 tons per day at their mill right now. And that's been reflected in Abitibi's share price. A few years ago it was 30 cents and now it's beyond $25 per share. And so that's had a direct impact on Golden Valley and Golden Valley's share price. And so certainly that's the anchor asset. And separate from that, the equity positions that we have in the other two companies, Val-d'Or Mining, VZZ, and International Prospect Ventures, the one working in Australia, IZZ, we're pretty excited about those too, but for different reasons. They haven't found the mother lode yet, but they're in good environments, good positions, and working aggressively in their own right. So we have high expectations for them. And they're all properties that we own effectively 100% or 100% outright. Most of them were acquired by staking. So we're pretty excited about all of them.
You have a lot of experience listing, your different companies on the TSX Venture Exchange. What does the listing mean to Golden Valley and your other entities?
Well, the Venture Exchange has been an excellent platform for us. And, to go right back to the origin, when I started in this game, we were originally listed on the Alberta Stock Exchange. So that takes you pretty far back. And then through the different derivations of that, so the CDNX and right on through to the Venture Exchange. But it's been an excellent platform. There is good regulation. It's fluid. They've made consistent improvements, especially in the last 5 years, to visibility and so on. We're also listed, or at least have exposure in the United States through the OTCQX. But right now, and I checked just before we began here, we're doing about 70% of our daily trading on the venture. So I think that's a strong endorsement of, the platform itself and why we stick with it and have with all of our companies.
Glenn, thank you so much for your time today. Wishing you the best.
Thanks very much. Good luck to yourself. Stay healthy, everyone.